Hello, good evening, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the Villa Forever podcast. I am your host, Chad Williams. First of all, before we get started, if you are new, please subscribe to my channel. Subscribing is completely free. It don't cost anything, and it will help out my channel massively, and it will keep growing the channel. Also, you know where to find me. You can find me almost everywhere, wherever you get your podcast from, including Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. This evening, I'm joined by my special guest, Neil Dunworth, who is the host of For the Love of Paul McGrath, Aston Villa podcast. Neil has been quite a regular on my show now. It's the fourth time he's been on my show, and I always appreciate the support that him and Paddy give my channel. I'll be doing the pre-match talk show, Luton Town versus Aston Villa. Saturday, it's a 5:30 p.m. kickoff. This is a very important game. Can Aston Villa get 3 Premier League wins in a row, which will help their Champions League push at the end of the season? It's great to have you on the show again, Neil. How are you?
I'm very good, Chad. Thanks very much for having me on. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
The last time, Neil, I saw that on your channel. I watched the live podcast you did with Paul McGrath. I felt the stories he tells is so interesting.
Yeah, it was obviously it's been a life goal of mine to have that with the podcast being
Your
named
idol?
after him. Absolutely my idol, 100%. And with the podcast being named after him, just we've been trying to get him on the podcast, or even trying to get a photo opportunity with him even for years, and everything just fell into place. And I'm so thankful that it did, because really, really cool day, and a really cool person, to be honest with you. Really nice person. There was over 250 people there,
Oh,
and
wow.
he waited around, shook hands with everybody, had a photograph taken with everybody, and still came up on the stage. He was well over the time he was allocated, and he did it with a smile. So really appreciative of him. Yeah,
I can't believe how humble he is as well.
that's it. Yeah, absolutely. Really humble guy. Really, really comes across as somebody who's how will I put it? Didn't really realize how good he was. That's probably the best way I would put it.
Yeah.
And some of the stories he told are absolutely brilliant.
Well, you and Paddy are doing a great job with the content on the channel.
Thank you.
Well, we've got a few topics to get through. But before we
Mhm.
get through the other topics, what's your verdict from the Forest game?
Of Forest, the first half against Forest was just absolutely sublime football. Villa looked really, really on tune, on song, should I say, in that game. Specifically in the first half, 3 goals we scored were brilliant, and it looked like we could have gone on and put up a cricket score, to be honest. The way we were playing, and then Forest get into it. Obviously, there are 2 goals either side of half time. Did make it a bit nervous for some people. I genuinely didn't feel nervous. I thought we were always
Yep.
going to get the 4th goal. And then when Leon Bailey scored, I relaxed then at that stage. I was like, okay, job done, away from home. And let's move on. Let's move. Sorry, job done. At home, should I say, and let's move on to the next game against Luton away from home.
Oh, yeah, well, I went to the game with my dad, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was a wonderful display of football. The
Mm-hmm.
thing that really impressed me the most about that game, we controlled it so well.
Absolutely, we really did, through both John McGinn playing in the role vacated by Boubacar Kamara, Douglas Luiz being in there as well. Luis was just superb. A lot of people felt like that potentially we would lose something. in that aspect, having to put McGinn back there. But I think the fact that he's got the speed and he's got the positional know how to really play in any position. I would say any position on the field. He just he's very diligent. It really didn't seem like we missed a step against Forest. Thought Yuri Tielemans was really good against Forest as well, and that midfield three really makes a difference when they're on song, because it's the backbone of where our I suppose where our creativity can come from. Yes, we've got Pau Torres at the back, and having him back is absolutely fantastic. But if he can't play the long ball, he needs to be able to play a short ball, and that's where midfield comes in. And when our midfield ticks like it did, very few midfields can live with us, as you saw as you saw against City, as you've seen against
Yeah.
against a lot of other teams this season, Brighton, West Ham, and so on.
Well, every single player on that pitch, they played their part. As expected, I knew it was going to be a game with a lot of goals. A really fast-paced game it was as well.
It was, and well, it wasn't Villa's part in the first half. I thought Villa were really up the tempo through Leon Bailey and Jacob Ramsey, and having Ramsey back is somebody else that the club really relies on for his ball carrying ability. He's completely different to anybody we put out there. Completely different to Zaniolo, completely different to like that's really who's played out there. Diaby comes in, and maybe Tielemans goes out on the left, and Ramsey just does that position a lot better than anybody else we have in the squad. So bringing him back in did elevate the pace of our play again, and I think we really saw the benefits of him in there as well, with regards to dictating the tempo that we can play at.
Because usually with Emery's Aston Villa, when we dominate possession and we control the game, usually we always get a good result. We usually win as long as we dominate.
And that's true. Early goals. I saw a statistic and I can't remember it, but early goals usually mean, and like if Villa score early, we usually go on to score again, and then it becomes a case of Villa winning. That's the way it's been under Unai Emery, and long way it continue.
Yeah, well, although it's sloppy, the goals we conceded. But for me, I'm not bothered about us conceding goals. As long as we score more than the other team, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, the Kevin Keegan philosophy when he was over Newcastle in the mid-90s. We're going to outscore you. We're going to score one more goal than you, and that's how we're going to win the game. And that's exciting. It's probably unsustainable over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years, obviously. But if you get it right over 1 year, and Villa have so far, it's really exciting, and you can build on it. And I think Villa have done this season. We've gotten clean sheets when we needed to, and we've scored one more than the opposing team when we've needed to as well. So yeah, it's been really interesting.
Because really, it's about getting results and getting the job done. That's what matters as well.
Absolutely. We better the results of Spurs and Man United from here on out for the rest of the season, and the world's our oyster, because it's in our own hands. And I think that's something that Villa are gaining comfortability with. Wasn't always a very good thing that Villa were able to play with throughout the years, but I think this team has a small bit of character about it, stemming back to last year as well, and it'll be interesting to see if they get the job done.
Also, it was very ruthless in front of goal. Very clinical.
Yeah, I agree. The last 2 games have been really clinical. Ollie Watkins, really clinical. The interplay between Watkins and Bailey for the first goal against Forest was superb. And yeah, your clinical is definitely the word I'd use for it.
Well, they're all great goals. I mean, I really enjoyed all the goals, to be fair.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, even the header from Douglas Luiz, we don't see many headers from him, and it was great to see him pop up. Now, granted, there was 2 other players there with him, 2 other Villa players. The marking was really poor from Forest for that goal, but somebody had to put it in the back of the net, and Dougie knew how to do it when it came to him. So well done, Douglas Luiz.
Well, hopefully we're going to get a good run going. Like, it's going to give us so much confidence in the next the end of the season.
I agree. Yeah, specifically when United have City coming up next, and then we have Spurs the week after. We take points off Spurs, City take points off United, and that buffer zone begins to grow. And Spurs have Crystal Palace at the weekend, which under a new manager, may not be like, I don't know what to expect from them, but we've all seen a new manager bounce, and I think all Villa fans will be hoping for that new manager bounce for Oliver Glasner. I think it is, that's over
Yeah.
Crystal Palace now.
I think it was after Boxing Day, I think it was. We had a few patchy games, but I think we've got through that bad spell now.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair to say after the Manchester United game, whereby, well, probably really after the Sheffield United game where we dominated and we didn't go on to win, and then Manchester United then where we dominated and we didn't go on to win, except we lost the United game, which was which for me was a real sucker punch. Both United games were a real sucker punch. Yeah, I think that, that there was obviously a Chelsea game after that, and then the Man United game again, and
Yeah.
there was just kind of a feeling of what's happening here. The injuries then came in, and thankfully those injuries now are coming back, albeit that we won't have Boubacar Kamara, but we've weathered the storm, as you said, and I think we're looking good for the run-in. We're looking good for the run-in. Another 16 to 18 points should do it, and should solidify top four. And I wouldn't bet against us for sure in getting those points.
It's unbelievable now. We're 8 points clear Man United. I mean, who would have predicted that?
Yeah, and who knows? Beat Luton at the weekend, as I say. United playing City, and then it's all for them to do, being 11 points. 11-point gap. Now they can obviously go on a run themselves, but they've played pretty chaotic brand of football this season. Their top scorer, I think I read somewhere where they're is Scott McTominay like their second top scorer this season or something. It's something wild anyway. They've been winning 1-0, they've been winning 2-1, they've been getting last minute goals, and like I said, with us scoring one more goal than the other team, that becomes unsustainable. And I suppose it's how it's done becomes unsustainable. And Man United are doing it in what I would think is an unsustainable way, the way it's so helter-skelter and so chaotic. So look, all the pressure will be on them. As I say, if we win at the weekend and United lose to City, all the pressure will be on them. So, that's the way we want it. We want them to be under pressure. Yeah. We want us to know that we win and we do our jobs, and then we can sit pretty.
Because Man United don't worry me. I can't see where they're going to get this run from. All the pundits are saying.
I think it's probably more their run might come from, well, just maybe bettering the results against the teams that we lose against, if that makes sense. Like let's say we lose to Spurs, they beat Spurs. Getting 3 points back in that fashion, but that run, as you say, they're going to have to get, I think I did some calculation on it, they're going to have to get 1.8 points per game on the way out. And I'm open to correction on that. And they haven't averaged that over the last 2 years yet. So it's hard to turn that on towards the end of the season when injuries get creeping, like Højlund is out now. Their centre half partnership is who it is, and then they've Lindelof at left back as well. So, I know last night they got the job done against Nottingham Forest in the last minute, or was it last minute, or was it just after just after halftime? I can't remember.
That's it. End of the game, Casemiro.
Was it right at the end of the game, Casemiro? Yeah, and it was a boring game, to be honest with you. So I kind of turned off midway through the second half. I couldn't remember when they scored because I didn't see it. Like if you're, and I know it's good to sprinkle goals around the team, but if your defensive midfielder is the one who has to win an FA Cup Cup fifth round game for you in the 89th minute, well then, that kind of stems to where the chaos is coming from, specifically when your striker is out who's reached a bit of form.
That Spurs game, that's going to be the biggest game of the season so far.
I think so, but I think it's more a must-not-lose game than a must-win game. Obviously, we want to win it, but...
Oh, yeah, of course.
You get a draw out of that game and you go, you dust yourself down and you go, all right, let's go. Spurs didn't gain any points on us. And then, it's really just mitigating that against Spurs, because we do have City, we do have Arsenal, we do have Liverpool. And, even the most ardent of Aston Villa fans will say, hey, I'm not sure we're going to do the double over City this season. I'm not sure we're going to do the double over Arsenal this season. So if we're relying on those 3 games for points, that's where it gets difficult. But outside of that, we've likes of Brentford, we've West Ham, we've Chelsea, I think, left to come as well. Yes. We've Brighton, Crystal Palace. they're all in the mix as well. Like West Ham are on the beach already. Brentford could be playing for their safety, you know, when we get to
Oh,
play them at
yeah.
the moment. They're on a horrendous run at the moment. Brighton, depending on how they get on in their European competition, may favour that if they're going to lock up maybe a 7th position within the league, because they're not going to threaten for 4th place anyway, you know. So while they're all dangerous games, you know, the timing of when we play them could be very beneficial to us, because I think we're going to prioritise the league and hope we win the Conference League. But with Unai Emery, he always puts out a pretty decent team anyway, so it's going to be interesting to see. But that Spurs game is definitely a game that we should, you know, put a little red circle around and hope that you know, if we can win that game and create an 8-point buffer to Spurs, once again there'll only be 10 games left to play. I think it's 10 games left to play after that. For each team, well, they'll have 11 because their game against Chelsea was postponed. But yeah, they'll have to get more or less a point on us per game, and that's difficult to do with only 10 games to go.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as they go back to the Forest game, so who was your player of the match against Forest?
It was hard to kind of pick a player of the match, I thought, because so many people played well, but I think you kind of have to give it to Douglas Luiz for his 2 goals. But I think for the contributions in open play and that pass to Ollie Watkins that looked simple for the first goal, I think Leon Bailey was just electric. I think he was just brilliant. He gave them fits too. So I'd give it to Douglas Luiz, but I thought Bailey was really, really good too.
He was electric, Leon Bailey. Yeah, absolutely electric. But for me, I've chose John McGinn. You know, every player was excellent, but the reason why I chose John McGinn, because I just think he was at the heart of everything. And I like the way as well, he kept driving the team forward, or winning interceptions as well. In key areas, and his passing was excellent.
I think so too. Absolutely. I think his passing was absolutely amazing. And his passing has been amazing all season. Yeah. So great pick.
And also, I like the way with McGinn as well. He reminds me a little bit of what Paul Scholes used to do at Man United. The way he used to switch the play. He does that quite a lot.
And from that deeper position now, that's what Villa are going to need as well, you know. So a quick switch of play, and then he's got the pace to be able to go and chase it up the other end as well if he needs to.
And also, when we went to the game, I heard like a big roar from the crowd. Because John McGinn made this great tackle, and it really got the crowd on the feet.
He's Captain Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I'd love to see that, putting that challenges in as well.
Yeah, 100%. You know, he's the do-it-all player. I wondered about him when he was made captain, because maybe, you know, he's a bit of a joker off the field and stuff like that. But from an effort point of view and a leading by doing, you know, there's nobody that's as fit in that team as John McGinn. There's nobody who loves the game of football, I would go so far as to say, more than John McGinn. And there's, you know, he can do everything to a B+ level probably, you know, and you know, his ability to get around the field, and I think he's growing into that captain's position for me, for sure.
Because I think with John McGinn, he's a real leader, and I think he would really fit in like Sir Alex Ferguson Man United team. He's that sort of player.
Yeah, let's not give them any ideas. Let's not give them any ideas, Chad. He's ours.
Don't sell him. Yeah, don't sell him. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's my favourite player that you can see behind me.
Absolutely. I was just going to ask you about the jersey. Yeah. That's a dead giveaway, Chad.
Well, I was going to talk about like the Forest game, like the goals. But the goals that we conceded, could have they been avoidable, those goals?
A lot of people make an awful lot about the corner. I think there's extenuating circumstances. I think you can give the defense a pass for both of them. Now, I know not a lot of people will agree with me with this, and there are people who will say corner was crap. It should have been stopped. But the difficulty about that corner is that I suppose it's the fact that Villa do concede where somebody peels off to the back post and just heads it across the box again. And for me, it's a percentages game on that one. What I mean by that is that Awani is only heading that. He's literally just heading it into an area, hoping that there's somebody there.
Yeah.
So you can talk about like, oh, it was well worked and so on, but it's very difficult for that to come off. Yes, they come off against Villa probably more than any other team, but when you look at that back in slow motion and when he heads it, like if Watkins was quicker out, he catches Nikate offside. You know, if the defenders aren't busy running out, somebody turns and heads that away themselves, but everybody's busy trying to catch them offside. So the basis behind putting it to the back post like that, and a striker peeling off from the outside and going to the back post, is it creates chaos. People lose their spacing, people lose their zonal marking, and everyone's just going, crap, okay, let's get out here and let's not keep anyone on side. So you're caught between two stools there, because do you stay on your post and attack the ball if it does come across the box, or do you get out and try and catch somebody offside? And I know probably the smart thing to do is to stay on the post, but you know, you want to create that movement within the box. You want to create movement because you know, the more that you can move within the box, the less likely you're to be pinged for an intentional block or anything, or give away a penalty and stuff like that as well. You know, there's less likely the ball is to hit off somebody and then hit your hand and give away a penalty. So the move, or the shift in mindset, has been more for people to come off the post as early as they can and to try and get out into the midst of play, so that they aren't a kind of sitting duck there and creating giving the attackers a small bit of a benefit. So I can see that, and when he heads that ball across, Nikata is just there at the right place. He's just thundering in and he gets his head on it, and you know, they do that another 150 times and they don't get that connection again. So yes, you can say it looks bad from the defense from a lot of ways, but like, and I saw on, I can't remember what it was, but I saw somewhere that they were saying it was a well worked goal. And yes, you can say it is well worked, but essentially Ewani is just heading it back into an area, hoping that somebody comes powering through, and Nikata did. So for that goal, I think there's mitigating factors for the defense. I also think there's mitigating factors for the defense for the Gibbs White goal, because just a new defender coming in. I think that the spacing between the two of them wasn't 100%. And look, it's a great finish from him, and it's a great run from him as well. So a lot of times when we score goals, we think they're the best goals of all time, and when we can see goals, we think that they're soft. And you know, I think that's just probably the nature of a fan, to think that your team could always concede soft goals. But I think in a lot of ways that the Gibbs White one was a great run from him, and it was a deep run from midfield. Yeah, it was a deep run from midfield, because Origi had pulled out, had gone deeper, and that wasn't happening in the first half. That coupled with a brand new centre half coming in only minutes previously, and yeah, you could say we were cock cold there in that one. But yeah, look, you know, as I say, it didn't come back to bite us, thankfully.
It's not really a massive concern, but I think Austin McPhee will work on defending set pieces and instead of the attacking set piece. Because we're good doing that.
Yeah, look, I'm sure that he does. You know, a lot is made of when things are going right. He's the best, he's the best in the world. And when we concede a few from corners, he's the worst in the world.
Yeah,
I've never known a coach to get as much praise or as much stick as Aston McPhee. And realistically speaking, you know, he's a coach that's just doing his job. And like, set pieces are like, they obviously have somebody who's a set piece coach on their side of things who can equally do his job. So I think there's a lot made of it when you put this title on somebody like that, set piece coach, and then you can see it from a set piece. It's like he's crap or he's brilliant or whatever the case is.
It's not just his fault.
No, it's not. There's loads of moving, but there's like for a set piece, there's probably 20 players in the box. 20, maybe 19 players in the box. How can you dictate or foresee, or like, you want to be completely and utterly, you want to have some sort of X-Men power to be able to know where everybody is going to be and dictate where they're going to be, yeah, so like, all it takes is for somebody to drag somebody out of position, you know, and have a credible threat that they have to go and leave them, and then something pops up. And I think that's what happened at the weekend, you know. So
yeah,
yes, we can defend from and then, you know, it's funny because then if you say to people, go man for man, that's what happened at the weekend, I think. But then if you go zonal, just to mention the zonal marking from corners drives another subset of people wild, you know. So I don't think you can ever really get it right. And I think corners and set pieces, by fan bases and by match of the day and like are they're they've tried to
Yeah.
simplify it to make it easier, not even to make it easier understood, but to apply blame when sometimes the blame is many and it's vast. And it's one of the areas of football that I'm beginning to get really kind of tired of is it looks like it's being overanalyzed, but it's actually being underanalyzed and trying to
Oh, yeah.
simplify it into a 30-second conversation point. And then it's a case at the end of it, they just go, yeah, this person's to blame. And then everybody who's watching that program goes, yeah, that person must have been to blame when it may not be the issue.
If we just switched off, I think maybe got a little bit complacent, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think for the corner it was complacency. I think it was difficult for them to push out. But I know there have been times when we've been complacent for sure this year.
The thing when we got that fourth goal, though, it was a relief. Then it didn't matter anyway.
Was 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a great goal it was. Well, it was a great interplay, a great build-up play. Obviously, Watkins gets saved from Watkins, and then just rebounds to Bailey, and he just taps it in. But they all count on the scoreboard at the end of the day.
And would you say with the long ball over the top? Would you say that is probably one of our weaknesses out of all the things we do?
I think it's probably just because some of the more high-profile goals we've conceded have come from those. I don't think it's generally an issue on the whole. I think the bigger issue is when we get dominated in midfield, how difficult the game looks for us. You look back to Newcastle, you look back to Chelsea in both FA Cup games. You look back to Liverpool as well. You know, when we get really overrun in midfield, and I suppose this is true for every team, but the game looks really tough for this Aston Villa team, which is kind of, as I said, to be expected. So I think that's the place where teams look to attack, or where teams who are confident in their ability will look to attack us more. I think every team thinks they're going to have a puncher's chance against the high line and they're going to try and kick a ball or two over the top. Like Forest in the first game got some good traction from it. That's where their two goals came from. And then the goal from Gibbs White and Burnley. Yeah. But I don't think it's a huge issue. Because I think we've dealt with it well in the main, to be honest with you.
I want to talk about one of my favourite Aston Villa players at the moment. He's been completely rejuvenated under Unai Emery. How much have you been impressed with Leon Bailey? How much has he improved?
Exponentially. He's 4 times the player he was last year. There was parts of last year where under Steven Gerrard where, remember him, he was almost crying on the field, just things weren't going right for him. He mentally just didn't seem like he was in a good spot. And he seems like he's a guy who needs to be smiling to play well. And he's certainly smiling now. And he's, 7 assists, 10 goals, or 10 goals and 10 assists and 7 goals over the season so far. Completely different player and one of the first names in the team sheet.
And it really looks like under Emery, Leon Bailey is really enjoying his football.
And that's exactly. I think that's the Caribbean style. I don't want to stereotype anyone, but I think that's you see him, even when he's away on duty with Jamaica and stuff like that. Dancing in the dressing room pre-game, dancing in the dressing room post-game, and he likes life to come to him and to be happy, and you can see that in the field.
Just don't worry about a thing because we got Leon Bailey flying down the wing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But also, I think under Gerrard and Dean Smith, you only saw glimpses of him. But now, though, he's so consistent every week.
And you know what? I think the Unai Emery management style has been great for him because it's only recently he's been starting games again. And when I say recently, I'd say maybe the turn of the year. Like he was coming off the bench in a lot of games previously, and that's what built up his confidence. Coming off the bench, scoring goals, playing well, the arm around the shoulder, maybe whispering in his ear saying, "Hey, listen, Leon, you're going well at the moment. Listen, keep it up now. You're not going to be starting the next week, but we need you to come off the bench and bang one into the back of the net." So, and he did that and he proved himself, and then he got back into the first team squad again.
Because he deserved his place in the first team.
Absolutely, yeah, and he's one of the first names in the team sheet now.
As a fan going to watch him as well, he's like a joy to watch. Like the fans get excited watching him.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Yeah, even on TV, I don't get to him as many games live as I'd like to, but even on TV, you can hear the fans, you can hear it come through the television set that it's like, you're looking at it and you're going, these guys, like he's well up for this, and the fans are making the most of every time he gets the ball, because you can hear the excitement now, which is brilliant. It's been like Jack Grealish had that about him, and since Grealish went, obviously Bailey was brought in. He hadn't proved that up to this year, but now we're getting that excitement back like we did when we had Jack Grealish.
Because I think he's a sort of flair player. I think.
And every good team needs one of those.
I mean, you see, and his goal involvement, his stats speak for itself as well.
And they're only going to get better as the year goes on, which to me is really impressive. He's got to finish with over 20 goal involvements this season. And if you had pointed the finger at him at the start of the season and said, "Yeah, Leon Bailey is going to be this guy," actually, I think I might have said he might be one of the most improved players at the start of the season. I must go back and check that, because I know myself and Paddy had a bit of back and forth about whether Bailey this might be his last year, or whether it was a make it or break it year for him. I can't remember what it was, but I certainly didn't think he'd have the bones of 20 goal involvements or 10 goals. I think it's 10 goals and 7 assists. I didn't think he would have that in his locker on the 29th of February.
A lot of fans gave up hope in him in the beginning.
That's why we're not in the dugouts, Chad. That's why we're not in the dugouts with the manager's coats on, isn't it?
Well, I mean, he's a fantastic player, but no, I was going to talk about the Luton Town game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
I expect to come up against the team. Like, okay, Luton have been I thought Luton have been impressive the last 3 games I've seen them. From the point of view is they've looked dogged. They've looked like they've had a bit about them. They've looked like they've kind of now understand the Premier League, if that makes sense. I think they should have beat United. They went 1 up against Liverpool, and look, Liverpool are a juggernaut. When Liverpool things started clicking for them, they were just immense in the second half, and ended up winning that 4-1. Against City, I wasn't sure. Against City in the cup, no, City in the cup was when they lost like 6-1,
in the Premier
whatever
League,
it was, to get destroyed. City against, I think they played City in the Premier League, and they looked pretty good as well. I think it was City. So I'm completely blanking on that one. But what I'm getting at is they look like they're coming into a bit of form, but they haven't been getting the results. And sorry, it was Newcastle. Sorry, I was thinking of Newcastle when they got that draw. And they beat Brighton just before that. So they haven't been getting the results the last 3 games. And I think they've one eye on maybe Forest getting a points deduction, maybe Everton getting another points deduction, and I think their line of thinking at the moment is, if we don't lose a couple of games between now and then, going back to what I said about us and Spurs, if we can draw at home against Aston Villa, they'll think that's a good point. And I was with the We Are Luton Town podcast last night, and it was actually great. Yeah, I was on a Twitter Spaces, and they're really good guys. I actually speak to them quite a bit. I spoke to them since they've come up to the Premier League, and they're really cool guys. They're pragmatic. They know where Luton. Like, they know if Luton finish 17th, it'll be an absolutely amazing season for them. They obviously want to finish higher than that. They fully believe they can come and give Aston Villa a game at the weekend, and I think they will too. I don't think it's going to be as easy as a lot of people think this weekend. They've certainly improved from the first time we played them, but I think they would be really happy with a draw and see how other results pan out over the course of the weekend. But I wouldn't be happy as an Aston Villa fan with a draw at the weekend, and I think Villa need to go and they need to attack them early. Luton have conceded the most early goals, I think, in the Premier League. The guys told me last night, and Villa have scored the most early goals in the Premier League. And we know what happens when Villa score early goals. They usually tend to go on and win games. So I'm hoping that's the trajectory this game takes at the weekend.
Well, Luton Town have really impressed me this season.
Mm-hmm.
They're still in the relegation zone, but I like their fighting spirit.
Yeah, and they're a team of players who've had to earn the right to be professionals in a lot of ways. Like Chidozie Ogbene and the Irish guy that plays right wing for them, or right wing back or whatever. He played my local team. Where I grew up, my local team is Limerick FC. They're actually defunct now. They go by a different name, Treaty United. But um, he came up through there, and he was just outstanding as a youngster there. He was originally played with Cork City, then with Treaty United, and then he got his move over to the UK, and obviously came up through the ranks there with Rotherham and now on to Luton and so on. And you look down through the team of players that they have there. A
Yeah.
lot of them have had to are either trying to rebuild their careers, the likes of Marvelous Nakamba, Lukanga as well, Ross Barkley, another
Oh,
guy.
he was been
Uh,
excellent, he has, Ross Barkley.
been superb. Yeah, been really, really good for them. Carly Woodrow as well. A lot of those guys are rebuilding careers that they would have had, and other guys then have had to work for every inch of the career that they currently have in playing in the Premier League. And there's a lovely story behind Luton with regards to that, and that's where their fighting spirit comes from, because every single one of them knows what it's like to get out of a division and to try and get to hold the hope of playing in the Premier League. And like all the Aston Villa players have been playing the Premier League for a long, long time. Jacob Ramsey, I would say, obviously we've got the Ollie Watkins of this world, the John McGinns, Tyrone Mings, Emmy Martinez to a lesser degree, having to fight for his place in the Arsenal team, not getting it and moving to Aston Villa to try and prove his point. We've a lot of players who have had to prove their point either through the leagues or to an international manager or somewhere, or even Leon Bailey, that he can play in the league. We've different struggles in our team, but I think the Luton Town team, that dogged fighting spirit of coming up through the leagues, is very apparent, and it's a nice story for them for sure.
Sometimes I watch Luton Town in their home games. Some of their pressing's quite good as well.
Yeah, I think that comes from the playing three at the back and then being able to pack midfield with all those players, because they do pack midfield. When you look at them, they kind of leave either Woodrow up top if he's playing, or Adebayo, who looks like he'll probably be out again at the weekend, which is a big loss for them. And then they pack it with Chong, Morris come back into midfield. Probably Clark and Barkley. I think Lukanga had some sort of a knock as well. And then you're going to have Ogbene and Doughty as well. Doughty can deliver a real good ball. I've been impressed with Doughty. I think it's Alfie Doughty. I think is that his name on that left hand side. I've been impressed with him. I think he's been a pretty decent player, and he's well able to deliver across anyway. That's for sure.
Because I think if they keep playing the way they're playing, they've definitely got an outside chance of playing not staying up.
Oh, I think so for sure. Yeah. I think, and plus with all the cloak and mirrors and the smoke about points deductions and stuff like that, they absolutely do. I think the other two teams, Burnley and Sheffield United, I think they're effectively relegated now.
They're buried, yeah.
I think they're gone. But yeah, I think definitely Luton will think they have a puncher's chance of staying up this season.
Yeah, and also I don't think this game is going to be easy as it sounds.
No, I don't think any game is going to be easy for Aston Villa as it sounds in the coming weeks, because
no game's easy in the Premier League.
No, unless you're beating Brighton 6-0. That was a pretty easy game. We absolutely ripped them. But obviously, I'm being silly when I say that because of the team that Brighton are. But you're right. There is no easy game, and it's like Aston Villa have to be pitch perfect. They just have to be, and I think that's what focuses the mind, and I think that focus will be evident at the weekend. And while it won't be easy, I think Villa have the on-field football intelligence to get the game done.
Also, I've heard that Ezri Konsa's back.
He is, absolutely.
Which is great news.
He is. There was the club released a video of him back training yesterday, I think it was. So I don't think we see him at the weekend. Maybe he makes an appearance on the bench, but I suppose it already depends on Pau. If Pau Torres is fit to go, I've heard nothing of Pau. I've heard nothing. I've had a complete social media kind of blackout myself today. I haven't seen anything, and I suppose we'll hear from Unai tomorrow and we'll know more about Pau Torres then. But if Pau Torres is fit to go, then it's as you are. I think there's no need to rush Ezri Konsa back. But if he's not fit to go, maybe we see Ezri Konsa on the bench, or maybe we see somebody like Finley Munro or Lamar
Yeah.
Bogart on the bench there to add a body on the bench that can come on in a defensive position. But not ideal if Konza and Pau Torres can't make the bench. But Unai Emery makes things work, and I've no reason to believe that he won't do so at the weekend.
Because in the second half against Forest, did Torres come off as a precaution?
That was it. Yeah. He came off as a precaution. He said he felt a small bit of pain in the back of his leg. They didn't want to risk him because of the lack of centre halves that we have at the moment, I suppose. So they took him off. And I thought Chambers played well when he came on. So it didn't make that much of a difference. Yeah, I spoke about maybe the miscommunication between the two guys for the second goal, but Chambers is a professional. He's come in, he's done a job against Forest at the weekend, and I don't think he looked out of place.
I'll just give a drink of water, Neil.
No problem. Take your time. I have people messaging me, Chad, asking me if I got tickets for the Ajax game. So, which I didn't get tickets for there. I wouldn't be able to go anyway. So
I've got tickets for the home leg.
Did you get tickets for the home leg? Yeah. I won't be able to go to either leg. It's just two small kids, at the moment. I'd be shot if I was to go midweek. They're enough of a handful for two people, never mind for one person. So
I can imagine.
Next year I'm gonna get off to way more games once.
That'd be good. That
would. Yeah. I'm
gonna meet him. So I'm gonna meet Paddy soon.
Yeah, I'm over in April, and if our paths collide, if we can meet up, before game, I'd absolutely love to. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the Luton Town manager, Rob Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts of Rob Edwards?
Former Villa great, Rob Edwards. 8 games for Aston Villa, obviously. The making of the man was down Villa Park. Look, I think it's brilliant. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's, gone about his business the way that you probably should if you're going to become a manager. And I contrast him to the likes of, I suppose I'm more reluctant to contrast him to Steven Gerrard, because I did respect the way that Gerrard went and coached the Liverpool Academy for a while. We probably in hindsight, if I was to go back, I would have told him, coach somewhere else other than a place where everybody's going to think you're great, regardless of what you do. But when you contrast him with Rob Edwards, he's 41 years of age. He'd give up the game. What was it, 11 years ago? I think he'd give up the game early at around 29, 30. He was kind of floating around for a small bit. Now he took up coaching role at Wolves, if I'm not mistaken, and he's come up through the league. Started off was it non-league with Telford. Now I think he was with England under 16s and and then he did brilliant work at Forest Green Rovers, and then he got the raw end of the stick for Watford, if I remember rightly. And then Luton said, yeah, we'll have you. If Watford is stupid enough to sack their 59th manager in 10 weeks, the way they sack managers, we'll take you because you're a damn good manager. And he's gone on to Luton, got Luton promoted, and look, he's getting all the plaudits, and he absolutely should, because he's a good tactician. He's a really good tactician.
And no disrespect to Luton, but considering they're a small club, Robert Edwards has done a fantastic job of what he's achieved there.
Absolutely. He got the sack. I think it was 11 games or something like that he only had at Watford. Yeah. And he got the sack at that stage. And that's not enough time to get your feet under the table at all. But, I actually only looked him up yesterday before I went on the Luton Town podcast. And I think across his managerial career, he's had 40-50% win ratios. Now, obviously, there were Telford, England under 16s, and Forest Green Rovers previous to that. But I think with Luton Town, he's hovering in and around the 40% win rate as well. For a team that's been put together on a shoestring budget, that's really good. And, even if he's dropped under that 40% win rate at the moment, that's probably because of the Premier League, how many games they've lost so far this season. So nothing to be sniffed at. And good young managers like that get overlooked because just that's the nature of football, As Sam Allardyce said, if his name was Sam Allardyce, he would have gotten a Man United job, but because sometimes the name doesn't fit the club, because it's not adventurous enough. Like Dean Smith fitted Aston Villa at the right time, right place, right time, and absolutely is the kind of guy we needed as someone who would go through a brick wall for the club. Because previous to that, having I know we'd Steve Bruce, but like the likes of Di Matteo, Remy Gard, all those guys, real nice exotic names, which are fine, and we've got a really, really good exotic name at the moment. So it's not foreign managers versus English managers. I'm getting at here, but what I'm getting at is that if the right club takes a chance at the right time and that manager fits, and you do your due diligence like Luton have done here with Rob Edwards, both club and manager deserve all the plaudits. So I wish him all the best in his career, because at 41 years of age, he could be managing for another, he could do a Roy Hodgson on it, and he could be managing for another 30 years at the top level. And you know what? I think he deserves a shot at it, because he's had to come up the hard way.
Because another story for the Premier League, these sort of stories.
Oh, yeah. Like, you think back of all these stories we've had before, Neil Warnocks of the world, the Sean Dyches of the world. I remember, but then again, you've got other guys who are really, really highly thought of, the Eddie Boothroyds of this world. I can't remember where he is at the moment. I think he's in with the England setup, or he was at one stage in with the England setup. But, there is a place, and the English game needs football managers from all types of disciplines, all types of ideologies, all footballing ideologies, like regards to the Sean Dyches, the Mourinho's, and all that. It makes everything like that makes the league the best league in the world, and the likes of Rob Edwards will contribute to that, and he has contributed to that this season with the style of play and with the type of player that he has.
Because also Luton Town have been through a lot in off-field matters as well, with Tom Lockyer with the cardiac arrest. And it's like he makes it, like his recovery, keeps recovering.
Absolutely. I actually forgot about Tom Lockyer. Jesus, yeah, when you mentioned it there, yeah, I wish him all the best. Yeah, he was only on TV recently. I thought he spoke really well, and he seems like he's a really good person. You can understand why he was captain at the club.
And they stick together. That's it. That sort of team.
Certainly, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tom Lockyer being well, if he can come back and play football, it would be amazing. But I don't think that would be the case. But I can imagine he would be. He's going to be Luton Town till they take him out of there, till they forcefully remove him from there, I would imagine. So yeah, I wish him the best of luck on whatever he does next. If it's playing, well, best of luck to him in that. If it's coaching, if it's in a development role, if it's in a business role within the club, I just think he's going to be Luton Town until the day he decides he doesn't want to be Luton Town.
Well, sometimes, not all the time, but Luton Town sometimes play the long ball. Did you know how to deal with the long ball? How would you deal with the long ball?
Well, the way that they set up, I think it's different, because long straight ball for Aston Villa, we've been pretty okay with, I think, so far this season. It's a long diagonal ball to somebody who's run from a distance, and what I mean by that is wing backs. So if they're going to utilize their wing backs, and they should, because Chidozie Ogbene is an absolute lightning streak when he gets going, So if they can play those crossfield balls, well, then more power to them. But I think Villa have gotten better at defending that. It was an issue against Newcastle at the first day of the season. It was an issue against Liverpool as well this season. Man United to a lesser degree, but certainly, to Garnacho, to Garnacho, he was an issue for sure. And you know what? I hate that he's playing well, Garnacho, because he was for a lot of this season, I felt that he was overhyped, and he's really come into his own, I think, in the last 12 weeks. But less said about him, the better, because he's just a player I can't warm to. I'm sorry.
We're coming almost towards the end of the podcast. So we've got one last question. So what do you think of the Conference League draw? Are you pleased with it?
I'm absolutely thrilled. There's two trains of thought with people. It's let's get into Europe and let's get plum draws and let's get easy teams and let's get to a final and win it. I think we're good enough to go and win the final and win this competition, regardless of who we draw. And let's draw the best teams. Let's have nights that the fans are going to remember. Like, I remember watching Atletico Madrid the Villa Atletico Madrid back in the late 90s, and
Wow, that would
for
be
me
amazing.
it was like, for me it was, and Stan Collymore scored that wonderful goal, and I was like, my like it made like a whole month for me, for Villa to be in that competition at that stage, playing a marquee team like Atletico Madrid at the time. And that's what you want, that's what you want with games of football. We get into the Champions League next season, we're not going to win it. Hey, if we do, brilliant, I'd love it.
Yeah,
But we can play the big teams in this competition, the Conference League, and yet I still feel we can win it. So
we can
that's why I
compete.
want to draw them now.
Compete the Champions League.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
we'll get there first, but I think we can. I think this team is a puncher's chance against everyone. We saw it against Man City, who are the best team in Europe. We've a puncher's chance against everyone, and we've also seen it against Liverpool and Newcastle this season, that we can be got at by the better teams, and that's just a growth point. Bit of recruitment in the summer, but we'll get to the Champions League first. I shouldn't have mentioned it and jinxed it, but we'll get there first, and then we'll see how we
that's
go.
it. We don't want to jinx it.
No, it's my fault if it doesn't happen from here on out.
Doesn't what I like about the European guy, the Conference League as well. The special occasions. I mean, under the floodlights as well.
Yeah, and
Extra special.
absolutely. And look, away games aren't for everyone. Like, I've only ever been to one away game in
Yeah,
my life, and like, not everybody goes to away games. They're expensive, and certainly, like, for European games, not everybody will get the
yeah,
opportunity to go. I think there was only 2,500 tickets for Ajax. But the people who go want to go to different grounds.
yeah.
They want to go to mad grounds in Montenegro or wherever it was this season, or Bosnia this season. They want to go to those far flung places, over to Warsaw, over to wherever they like. That's all the thrill of going to an away game. So that's like being in the Champions League. Yes, you might get to go to see the Bernabeu, you might get to go to see
Yeah.
the Stade de France, whatever, and they're all fantastic. A lot of those stadiums you can go to if you follow England away, whereas
Mhm.
you can't really go to Legia Warsaw's,
Yeah.
or you can't really go to, like, a lot of people wouldn't be going to Zrinski Stadium, or places like that, or even to Alkmaar. A lot of people wouldn't be going to Alkmaar if they were following England away. So playing in the third tier of European competition, their memories that those fans will have forever. And Max and Simon
Right.
on Villa and Tour, I know of, like, they absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this year,
Oh, it's
and,
brilliant.
and long may it continue.
Also, against Ajax as well. They're like a European football giant. They've won the European Cup 3 times. And they're not as good as what they used to be. Because I know they lost to AZ Alkmaar, I think.
Hmm.
But still, just the occasion, it's still great to play them still.
Oh yeah, that, like, everything that comes with Ajax, like the team of Johan Cruyff, one of the
Johan
best
Cruyff,
people
yeah.
ever to lace up a pair of football boots, changed the game, and they changed the game from an academy standpoint. That team was at 94, 95 that came through with Davids, Finidi George, Kluivert, Kanu, all those, the two De Boers, Mark Overmars. That team was like that's an all-time great, academy grown to a great degree team. And a lot of other big squads around Europe took note and went, wait a minute here, if we can grow these guys for free,
Yeah.
let's try and do that. And then United, with their class of 92, then came in and started winning Premier Leagues, in and around the same time, with homegrown players as well. But Ajax were the catalyst for that, and they still have a fantastic academy, and they've lost a lot of players
Yeah.
recently, but their academy is still churning out players after player.
Yeah.
Like, the centre half, they have 17 years of age. I think he plays left
Yeah.
back, and he plays centre half as Horta. And there's a couple of more guys in there. You could be going on forever, but
Yeah.
they are a huge conveyor belt to Dutch football, and it's going to be a great occasion. I'm really looking forward to it this day next week.
I
Really
can't
am.
wait. I'm lucky enough to get tickets as well, which is good.
Yeah, it's going to be magic. It really is. And European nights, regardless of who you play against, are magic. And I mentioned there about playing against sides that might never play against again in the group stage, but you get to the marquee point of the cup season. Within Europe, you want to play the big
Yeah.
teams. You want those memories, and Ajax are as big and as prestigious a club as you're going to get.
Do you remember when we last played them in 2008? Martin Lawson and Gareth Barry scored the last time we played them.
Yeah, I have no recollection of that game whatsoever, but I do know we did play them, and I do know I've read about it since. I watched it and everything, obviously,
Yeah.
but I have no recollection of that game whatsoever. So you're the second person that's asked me today, and I meant to go back and see if I could find highlights of it, but whatever I was doing in my life at that time, I've completely erased that game from the back of my head.
That's it. And also, Eric Ten Hag, since he left, it's sort of gone downhill for Ajax.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, as well, I think a couple of things have happened recently. Like the Mark Overmars piece. I think it was Mark Overmars that was with them. That there was a bit of controversy about that as well. And the fact that they sold some really good players last year, like Julian Timber going to Manchester United or going to Arsenal, and Anthony going to Man United, as well. Like he was ripping it up for Ajax, and can barely get off the bench for United now. I think he's a troubled soul himself as well. But they've had Mohamed Kudus leaving them as well and going to West Ham. Three massive players for them, really. Edson Alvarez going to West Ham. They've recouped a lot of money. They haven't spent it great. Spent it very well. They've brought in guys like Steven Berghuis, who scores goals in the Dutch league, but is he really going to be somebody who's going to push him over the line in Europe and so on? And I think the recruitment recently under that guy that was with Arsenal, Mr. That I think is how you pronounce his name. Recruitment there hasn't been fantastic, but they still have this conveyor belt of young players. But they're very young. The players that they have there at the moment now, they're really young. They're 16, 17, 18, 19. And, the gap between those guys and the bigger names that are in there, the Bergwijns, the Berghouses, those types of players, they need a middle class within the team, the couple of 26, 27-year-olds, because the likes of Kenneth Taylor that's in there. Kenneth Taylor, a really good footballer, having an absolute stinker of a year. If they want to let him go at the end of the season and Villa end up picking him up, I will have no problems with that, by the way, because super talented player, just having a stinker of a season. I think like a lot of those players, but they need more players. I think more players that, are probably 24, 25 to kind of just supplement that the middle area of that team, not the middle area of the field, but that they kind of bridge the gap between the older players and the younger players. That's kind of where I see them at the moment.
And it looks like
they're going to get Pep Linders as well from I think the Liverpool. The assistant manager is going to be their manager next year as well. So see what happens there. My score prediction, Chad. My score prediction, I think for Luton, is it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with 2. I'm going to go with 2-1. But I think we'll score the first 2 goals and they'll get a late goal.
Well, I'm going to go 2-1 Aston Villa.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 2-1 Villa for me as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be tight, but I think I'll back them to get the job done.
Yeah, I do too. I think we'll find a way to get it done. It'll be interesting to see who's in the team sheet, but I can see Jacob Ramsey scoring at the weekend. I can see Moussa Diaby coming off the bench and scoring at the weekend. I can see us conceding a goal just because we concede goals. But yeah, I think we'll score early, and I think we'll score a second goal, and then we'll dictate the play, but we will concede somewhere in along there. But I think ultimately we come away with 3 points.
Well, before we finish off now, I'm just going to read a few comments.
Oh yeah, excellent.
Thank you everyone for your great comments tonight. I'll read just a couple. So Michael Huggins, consistency is something we have always wanted at Villa. Taking into account of the last 14 months, I believe we can keep that run going. Absolutely, I really believe we can.
Yeah, I agree as well. I've nothing to put it this way. My motto is always, I've seen nothing that would make me think otherwise.
If you have a little look at some of the comments, if you actually go up a bit, I'll just go up. Actually, go up to, if you have a little look at the top, have a little look again. Oh, yeah, you've got TM base. We need to smash Luton and get momentum for Ajax and Spurs. I think it's vital, I think.
Yeah, I think beating Luton more so than going out and putting a high score on them for sure. I think just beating them. The players are going to know this. Like the players are going to know 3 points is what's needed from the weekend. Then you've got this little mini session of games which are important in different ways. Ajax, Spurs, Ajax, and I think that you go out, you beat Luton, even if it comes off somebody's backside and goes in the back of the net, and we win 1-0. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Get the try and get the job done early doors against Ajax as well, and then consolidate for Spurs and see what we can do. Yeah.
Well, we'll do one more question. It is from Uncle John Blevins. Do we expect Mings or Buendia back before the end of the season?
I don't. I don't expect either. Yeah.
I heard something about Mings was saying end of March, but maybe that might be delayed, maybe.
That would be brilliant. It would be absolutely excellent if we had somebody, even if he was back to the point of from the point of view of be able to name him in a squad. I think it would be huge for morale and boost to the team having the captain back. But like even at the weekend, he was, and I saw some people saw this as a negative that he was at Ipswich. To me, it wasn't negative at all. The man can take as long as he needs to get back. I prefer to have him 100% than to have him 70%. And if he's been invited to go and watch Ipswich against the Blues and watch Ipswich beat the Blues, well, then he can go to whatever team are playing the Blues every single week until he's fit. I have no problem with that.
Well, I'm gonna wrap this episode. I'm gonna bring this episode to a close. Thank you everyone for watching. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a like, share it, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe with a capital S. Remember to make sure to get your post notifications turned on. So click that bell icon so you don't miss out on any content. Also, you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much, Neil, for your time.
Thank you for having me on, Chad. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to wrap up this episode with Up the Villa.